All right, so this is 2022. We finished all of last year, so we're going backwards. We're going chronologically backwards. So this is one. Let's read what's going on. From 5 a.m. to 10 a.m., so that's your whole interval. The rate, so what does that mean? Derivative, something per something, at which vehicles arrive at a certain toll plaza is given by this. So that is your rate. Time is numbers after 5 a.m., so that's time 0. It's in vehicles per hour. So there's your per something else. Traffic is flowing smoothly at 5 a.m. with no vehicles in line, which would make sense because it's 5 a.m. Hopefully it's not too busy at 5 a.m. Write but do not evaluate an integral expression that gives the total vehicles that arrive from time 1 to time 5. This is easy money. What are you going to put? Integral 1 to 5? And do you write that? You write a of t. Why should you not write that? Because there's 2 reasons. Copy error and time. It's a timed exam. All right, that's worth a point. All right, letter B. Find the average value. And they actually use the words average value. If I asked you to average a list of numbers, you would add them all up, divide by what you've got. So leave a little gap here. It's going to be integral from when to when. Yeah, again, it's 1 to 5, a of t dt, except what are you going to put out front? 1 over 5 minus 1. Now that one did not say set up, but don't evaluate. They want you to actually evaluate that one. So it's a point for that setup, and then it's going to be a point for this answer that you get. So let's all try and type it in. As far as functions go, this one's not a bad one, to be honest. We've seen way worse. Yeah, that wasn't a bad one. I don't feel. Did they ask for units? Like, does it say indicate units of measure? No. Don't put them. Because if you mess it up, I'm pretty sure they'll mark it wrong. Only put it if they ask specifically for it. All right, but we got 3 out of the 9. We're on our way. I'm just going to fold this back so you can see it here. All right, letter C. And we got through that pretty quick. Is the rate, so not the amount of vehicles, but the rate at which the vehicles arrive at time 1, so at that specific time, increasing or decreasing? You need to find a derivative. You're going to find a prime of 1. Before we go and type that in, how will you tell increasing or decreasing? It's if this number is positive, rate is increasing. If this number is negative, rate is decreasing. Now, how do you type that in? Perfect. Go do it. Math 8. Don't write that number, because in the event you mistyped and it's wrong, it'll be wrong. All you need to do is say that a prime of 1 is positive. That's good enough. Because if you type it wrong, but somehow like coincidentally end up with a positive number, you'll still get the points. Okay. So a prime of 1 is positive, and that's sort of your justification already. So rate is increasing, and then you have to say one other thing at time. You guys are all over that. That's awesome. Perfect. All right, so it was a point for considering the sign of a prime of 1, and a point for, explaining the whole thing. So how many points are we at so far? 5 out of the 9, which is really good, because part D is where you kind of hit a wall. So here's the pep talk. You would skip it and move on. We're going to do this right now, but you would skip it and move on to the next question. Do you get what I'm saying? Because part D is where it gets a little bit weird, right? Now, we were talking about at 5 a.m., when things were slow. It says a line forms when the rate gets above 400 vehicles per hour. Does that make sense? Like if people are coming more quickly, like a line is going to form, all right, above 400. The number of vehicles in line at time t for, we're gonna have to find that number from whenever the line forms to form is given by this. Okay, A is the time when the line first begins to form to the nearest whole number, because we're not going to decimal point a car. Find the greatest number of vehicles in line from A to 4. What did you say when we were going over that other problem? Because I really liked that and I'm going to steal that. Let's graph it and find out what happens. If you aren't sure, let's do that. Let's graph it and find out what happens. So clear out all that other stuff that's in there and let's go graph this 450 square root of blah, blah, blah. Now don't hit graph yet because I am going to have us do one other thing. But we're going to just graph it and find out what happens. Now you should put something into Y2. Read part D. What do you think would be a good thing to put? 400. And if you're making that 400, you better change your window because -10 to 10 is not going to do it. So let's go to window. I'm going to make this be 0 to 4. I don't know what the A value is yet, but I know we don't have negative time. So I'm going to make that 0 to 4. What do you want to make the Y's? I mean, like 0. Well, now 400 is going to be, yeah, like you want to go, I would even say 500. Like you want it to be a good bit beyond that so that you can see what's going on. I think 450 would be fine, but I'm kind of like go big or go home. So do you guys get why I chose all of those? You kind of have to fiddle with it until you can see what you want to see. But here's the rate. So the rate's going up. That means more cars are coming. But then what happens later in the day is, you know, the traffic slows down, right? And then there's that 400. What do you think we might want to do next? Good. And you're going to need both of them. This first one is that A value. That's when the line starts to form. Do you get what I'm saying there? Like, because they didn't give you a starting point. That first one is going to be that A. The second one we're going to end up calling B. All right. So calculate intersect. First curve, second curve is fine. For guess, because there's more than one, scoot your cursor closest to the one you want, and it will give you that one. Did you all get 1.469? Okay, here's what you want to do. Quit out of there. Hit clear a bunch of times. Do you remember how to bring it back? Good. Oh, perfect. Oh my gosh. Okay, X, enter. Store alpha A, enter. And now we're going to write it on our paper. Okay, because this is where you get the points from. We set that equation equal to 400, and you want to write that because that's what you put in the calculator, because I think that's worth a point. It might be. Yeah, that's worth a point. Always write something. If you even just like let your instincts kick in and guess. All right. And so what's the first time we got? 1.469, and then write arrow A. And then you're going to go back to your calculator and we're going to do the exact same process and get the other one. So go back to your graph. You're going to calculate intersect. Just for the guess this time, you're just hitting enter a bunch of times, but for the guess, put the cursor closer to the other one. It will give you whichever one it's closest to. And so repeat the process, clear out of there, bring it back, and store it as B. And I believe you get a point. Yep, you get a point for getting both of those values. So you get a point for just setting the thing equal to 400. You get a point for getting both of those values. And again, if you calm down long enough to let your instincts kick in, you'll probably like, hey, I'm going to graph it and see what happens. Oh, they intersected. Probably I should get an intersection. Like you can get that. All right. Even if you don't understand what the question's asking, like try and do something. Now it's asking for the greatest number. That's a maximum. What test is for maximums and minimums? Candidates test. All right. So we're going to, oh, I changed to X. Oh, well, they'll take that if you write X instead of T. It's fine. It's whatever. Now your candidates are the endpoints, which are A and 4, but A is that, and you can just put A and 4, and then the other one is B. So yeah, you are using this, but real quick for the first one, 0 cars are in line at that time. Why? I was going to explain why, but why would that be 0? It's the beginning of the line forming. Like it hasn't formed yet. That's when it's going to start to form. Okay, so let's We'll divide and conquer. You guys do B, you guys do 4. So what you're gonna type in is math 9, alpha A should be your lower boundary. Upper boundary, again, you guys do B, you guys do 4. I'll do B, because you guys only have 3 people in your group. And then it's the function minus 400. No, I know they said whole number, but in your table, because the table is your justification, you still want to put the decimals. And then what did you guys get? You did the same thing, but you put a 4 for the upper boundary. Like you guys would have had a 4 there. Okay.
62.
Oh, did you do it?
I just replaced it with 4.
Oh, okay. You did it real quick. Did you guys get 62 point something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you subtract the 400, it has to go inside the integral or it won't work out right. Don't just put minus 400. Like you have to go back and put it inside of the integral. All right. So did they ask for the maximum? I think it was the maximum, right? Yeah. Greatest number of vehicles to a whole number. So max vehicles is what? Is 71 at time 3.597 hours. Now, all they really asked for that was the maximum of 71, but I still coach you guys to write it this way every time because sometimes they ask you for the maximum and sometimes they ask you for the time. And if you just always write both, you'll get it right. Okay. It's the answer with justification. So all of this together constitutes that point. But I actually kind of like that because if you didn't get that far, but you at least set the thing equal to 400 or whatever, you would get those points. So I'm actually kind of okay with that. But yeah, all of that together with one. I think we're going to be able to finish both of these. We're doing okay on time. All right, go ahead and flip over. We're going to do question 2. Let f and g be these functions. One of them is ln of x plus 3. One of them is x to the 4th plus 2x cubed. Which one's which? And I'm looking for like upper or lower. Like which one's the upper one? Yep, f of x. So let's label that and you'll be allowed to write on this. The upper one is f of x. The lower one is g of x. Before we even read the question, can you tell what unit this was from? The areas and the cross sections and disk washer. Okay, good. You're already there. That's awesome. All right, so they intersect at -2. We can see that -2, x equals -2, and it says x equals b. This point, the x part of that point is b. And before you even do any part of this, you are going to have to find that number. So what are we going to do to get that? Graph them, trace, intersect. Yeah, I know that that's annoying, but you can do it. It just takes time. All right, so everybody go ahead and type them in. I'm going to do it too. You can't do any part of the problem without that number, which is really frustrating. Oh, and we're going to have to adjust our window because we changed it to like above 400 with the previous problem. So once you get it typed in, let's go to window and talk about that because they don't really give you any guidelines on this one. Yeah, I know they're mowing the lawn outside. I'm sorry. What would you try? Yeah, and I would honestly make them both -5 to 5. I think that's a really good choice. -10 to 10 is fine as well, but that'll zoom it in a little bit and then you can see it better. All right, so second trace or calculate, whatever you want to call that. Oops. Intersect, first curve, second curve, guess. I got, oh wait, it's thinking. 0.781. Okay. So what you want to write on your paper before you do anything else, and you can put it in part A, B, C, it doesn't matter. B is 0.781, and then you have to store that. So do the exact same thing we did with the other ones and store it as B. I can't compliment you guys enough on how good you are with the calculator button pushing. It's awesome. I can just trust that you're doing it and you've all got it. It's great. B, exactly. So once you write that, and see, they actually didn't give us a choice. They said it's called B. So they said that. But yeah, once you write that, anything we do from now on, don't write 0.781, write B. All right, so let's see, what is A asking for? The area. What do you think? Integral? -2 to B of, don't write that though. Perfect. F of X minus G of X dx. And then you have to type it. And I realize that's exhausting. All right. But I have good news for you once you're done typing it. So go ahead and type it and then I'll give you the good news. And can you guys look here for 1 second? Do you see how when you do upper minus lower, do you see how I parenthesized that? Okay. Or the other thing you could do is distribute the negative sign if you don't want to put parentheses, but like make sure you subtract the whole thing. Yes. If it says error, and I'm going to say this on the recording so everyone knows this, always choose go to because it will take you where the problem is. Okay, so did you guys get 3.603? Would you have known it was wrong if you got a negative answer? It's an area. Okay, here's the really good news. You get a point for the boundaries, which is cool. You get a point for writing f of x minus g of x, and you get a point for that answer. I'm going to be real honest. If those are the only 3 points you got out of this problem, you're doing okay. So you're already good. And that's why I don't want you to stress. All right, you need to unstress. If you stress during this exam, you're going to end up having problems. All right. I got 8 minutes to do the other 3 parts. Let's move it along. All right. For -2 to b, let h of x be the vertical distance between f and g. So that means h of x is f minus g. Do you see how I just did upper minus lower, and that would be the vertical distance between them? Like if I wanted my height, my vertical distance, I would take this distance minus 0. Like that's the distance between them. Okay. You don't get a point for that yet. Is h increasing or decreasing at 0.5? What would you want to do? You will plug it in after you do what? A derivative. Good. So what is the derivative of h? Well, it would be f prime minus g prime. And then you would plug in -0.5. Now, for the sake of time, I'm just going to talk you through this. But how do you do a derivative on the calculator? So here's what you would do. You would do math 8 for this one, such that -0.5 minus math 8 for this one with a -0.5. If you type all that in, you are going to get -0.599. That was worth a point. You don't get a point until you get to that number, though. But you would do a math 8 minus a math 8 with me?
Can you do that all in the same?
Yes, you would do a math 8, blah, 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 minus another math 8. Okay. And then you write a sentence. Hold on 1 second. H of x is how it should start. Decreasing when? Yep, at x equals -0.5 because h prime is negative there. And you get a point for that sentence. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do you have to have this? Say h prime and -0.5.
Oh, yeah, good call. Don't write this number on your paper. Sorry, I said that in the other problem, then I went and did that. Just say is negative and then write your sentence. You will retroactively get that first point. If your sentence is correct, you don't have to say that number because again, if your number's wrong, but coincidentally was still negative, you will get the points. Okay, good call. Thank you. All right, C. The region enclosed by those graphs is the base of a solid. All right, what shape is our cross section? Squares. Thank your lucky stars. Squares is the easiest one, right? All right. So good. Okay, you guys want to tell me what to write here? What are we going to put? -2 to b. Good. Again, for the sake of time, I'm just going to tell you what that comes out to in the calculator, but are you all good with how that was written? Okay, because the base of the square would be f minus g, so the height of the square is f minus g. That comes out to 5.340. So it's a point for the setup and a point for the answer. So how many points are we at so far? 7. Yep, good. All right, so how many are left for D here? 2, okay. A vertical line in the XY plane, it's super weird to like visualize. I'll try and explain it. Travels from left to right along the base of the solid described in part C. Here's what's going on. Imagine shapes popping up out of the paper towards you, okay? But are you visualizing it? But there's a vertical line traveling like this along the base of the shapes. I mean, I can't explain it any better. That's very abstract, okay? The vertical line is moving at a constant rate of 7 units per second. So that is dx dt. Because it's going from left to right. So that's the change in x. Left to right is your x-axis. It's weird. Find the rate of change of the area. So dA dt is your question mark. And I don't even know whether that would be positive or negative. You know how I always would say, like, write what you think it's going to be? I have no idea because this is just a mess. Above the vertical line with respect to time, when you are at position x equals negative 0.5. Oh gosh, I'm remembering this one. It's absolutely horrible. All right. Area is f of x minus g of x squared. You guys said that correctly in part C. What's that?
We already have that value.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I guess.
We just-
Oh, yeah, I guess you're right. You would store that from part C. You would go back and store that because you already have that. But we have to take a derivative and buckle up for how awful this is. You would bring down the 2. All of this would stay the same. That would drop to a 1, but I'm not going to write it. And then what rule do we have? So you would chain on f prime minus g prime. And there's a third link in the chain because you have to chain on the derivative of x with respect to time. That's awful. But anyway, that's worth a point. And then you go and plug all this stuff in. It's horrible in the calculator. You would have to do 2 times plugging in negative 0.5. I think it wasn't part C, but what part did we do the derivatives in? Was it B that we did the derivatives? Yeah, so if you went back and got that value, that would get plugged in here. And then what was dx dt? 7. If you type all that in, it comes out to negative 9.271. I'm going to be real honest, though. I would not expect anyone to get part D on this. But I do feel like part A especially you could get. And which one was the other fairly like straightforward one? C. If you got A and C, how many points would you get? 5, which is excellent. Okay, so you have to look for the parts you can get.